general manager meetings in Major League Baseball in the past. The offseason starting to heat up a little bit, and we are learning a lot from what occurred last week at the MLB GM meetings, and it doesn't feel like this is a good sign for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Bob Nightingale of USA Today did sort of a recap of what he was hearing from the GM meetings for Major League Baseball, and he said that the hottest name among players that are free agents, not named Juan Soto, because clearly Juan Soto generates his own market by himself. He's going to generate buzz, and he's going to be the topic of every conversation because, again, like we've warned everybody, we've told you, that's going to be the thing that holds everything up. People are going to wait to see where Juan Soto goes. The hottest name that was brought up among all players not named Juan Soto was first baseman Christian Walker. According to Bob Nightingale, there are at least 6 teams who plan to aggressively pursue Walker. Talked about the Yankees, talked about the Diamondbacks, talked about the Washington Nationals. We warned you about them as well. And then the Mets and Yankees, potentially, depending on where Pete Alonso goes. We've mentioned the Cubs to you here on the show, but 6 teams at least that plan to aggressively pursue Christian Walker. Does that sound like a formula that leads to the Diamondbacks getting Christian Walker back on a deal that's going to make sense in the context of the budget that we've talked about on the show? Do you feel like Christian Walker, if 6 teams plan to aggressively pursue him, that market gets to a place where the Diamondbacks bring him back and still get to do other moves? Do you get that feeling? Because I don't get that feeling. I don't feel if the Yankees are involved, if the Mets are involved, if the Nationals, who are primed to spend money. Look, the Washington Nationals tore it down after they won the World Series. They tore it down. Traded Juan Soto, Harper left. They made moves. They built up their farm system again. So they're ready to maybe put some investment into the major league team. Are they going to go crazy? No, I don't think so. I think they're going to spend a little bit more aggressively than we've seen recently from them. The Cubs are looking to make a big splash. The Red Sox might throw their name into the hat. When you have these teams that I've mentioned to you, and the Mets and Yankees, you know that money is not an object. It's just an object to them. They just use it to just build a team. They are not under the same restraints that other teams are, specifically the Mets, who operate at a loss right now, but their owner is a hedge fund billionaire who just continues to invest money into the team because he's worth like $17 billion. Not everybody can compete with that. So you have 6 teams that plan to aggressively pursue Walker, according to this USA Today story from Bob Knight. Does that feel to you that's going to lead to a market where the Diamondbacks are in a prime position? I'm sure Christian Walker loved it here. I'm sure the Diamondbacks loved having Christian Walker here. I'm sure there is some level of comfortability where both sides would like to just reunite and come back. But when you hit free agency and those contracts start flowing in and you got teams that are offering you money and the number just keeps going up and up and up, at some point, going back to where you were playing in the past and that comfortability comes off the table. And I just fear that the Diamondbacks, compared to the other teams that are knowingly, the Yankees, Nationals, and Mets, being thrown out there by a reporter who's in the know, who follows this stuff, who talks to people. If he's saying that those teams are going to be in the mix, I just don't know how the Diamondbacks don't get priced out of this. And that is a scenario that they need to plan for. So what does that look like? Well, Jesse Friedman, who covers the Diamondbacks for PHNX, did a story that talked about 5 potential trade targets for the Diamondbacks at first base. So not the free agency route, not signing guys to contracts, but if Christian Walker were to decline his 1 year, $21.5 or $21.05 million qualifying offer and hit the free agency market, and go someplace else, go to Washington, go to the Yankees, go to the Mets. He gave 5 names of players that could be available. Now, I'll give you the names, and then we'll go back and react to them. Josh Naylor of the Cleveland Guardians, Nathaniel Lau of the Texas Rangers, Yandy Diaz of the Tampa Bay Rays, Ryan Mountcastle of the Baltimore Orioles, and Rhys Hoskins of the Milwaukee Brewers. And I think with each of these players presents a unique situation. We'll start from the bottom and we'll work our way back. Hoskins exercised an $18 million player option for his deal. And then also, there's a mutual option for $18 million for 2026 that carries a $4 million buyout. So if you are going to trade for Rhys Hoskins, who hit 26 homers and 82 RBIs coming off of a torn ACL, he only hit 214, but hit 26 homers and 82 RBIs. If you're going to trade for him, there's $18 million that you have to account for. Maybe the Brewers choose to pay some of that down. Friedman in the story mentions that maybe the Brewers would want to eat some of the money to free it up because they are a small market team. I just don't know a scenario where even if Milwaukee paid half of it, the Diamondbacks would make a move, trade a prospect, and take on $9 million for this year, and then guarantee themselves at least a $4 million buyout. And if they want to take on Rhys Hoskins for 2026, it's going to cost them $18 million. So it's $27 million for the next 2 seasons. I just don't know if that is where the Diamondbacks are going to want to play on this. Ryan Mountcastle. The interesting thing here is the Orioles have so many players that they try to fit into their team that they've got a surplus of infielders, and they could trade him. He hit 271, 13 homers, 63 RBIs, was worth 1.5 wins above replacement, has been a solid above average player. 27 years old, he could make some sense. But Baltimore might want some rotation help, as Friedman points out, so that could be on the back burner. Now, the player that really stands out to me, this is a player that I think out of all of these options, I would be the most in favor of, would be Yandy Diaz from the Tampa Bay Rays. He's got $10 million owed in 2025, $12 million club option for 2026 with no buyout. So you trade for him, you have $10 million on your books for this year, and then if you want to have him back, it's $12 million. But if you don't, it doesn't cost you anything. And here is the rub with the Rays. They are the perfect trade partner because they get in front of this stuff. They have a limited payroll. They have a limited window with some of these players, and they work ahead. They work ahead. So Yandy Diaz could play first base. He could be the DH for them. And he hit 281 with 14 homers and 65 RBIs. His WRC plus was 120, but that was a down year for him. So his value, as low as it could get, because he had a 163 WRC plus in 2023 and a 145 mark in 2022. 100 is average for those of you who are unfamiliar with WRC plus. Anything above it shows that you are better than league average. So a 120 WRC plus means Yandy Diaz was 20% better than the league average hitter. The year prior, he was 63% better than the league average. This is a above average hitter in Major League Baseball. Defensively leaves a lot to be desired, but I think the trade partner is what makes this so attractive for me. The Rays love to do this. They love to find ways to free up money. And so to free up $10 million that they can maybe use elsewhere, and then they take a prospect off your hands and they try to work their Rays magic, that would make some sense. Now, he's on the older side. He's 33. So he's the player that you're acquiring for this win now window. But he makes the most sense to me. Josh Naylor of the Guardians could make some sense. He's 27 years old. He's a left-handed hitter. Hit 31 homers and 108 RBIs in 152 games. Very similar to what Christian Walker provides, a left-handed bat. They have a replacement on the roster, as Friedman points out in his story. They have Kyle Manzardo, who's a young prospect who they called up last year. So again, it takes two to tango. The Guardians feel like a team that would be interested in tangoing, and it also feels like the Rays are a team to tango. Don't know how enticing $18 million and that Milwaukee Brewers situation with Rhys Hoskins feels like, and Ryan Mountcastle. But I am just preparing you. This story got written by Jesse Friedman yesterday, and the story from Bob Nightingale really kind of lit this fire under me of this. We need to prepare for a post Christian Walker world. And what does that look like? Who is available? Then Friedman put together the story of those players, some of which I like, some of which I don't. Yandy Diaz, again, the Rays are a great trade partner, but he's 33 years old. Defensively, he might profile more as a DH long-term if you keep him beyond next season. Josh Naylor is on the younger side at 27, but that probably comes with a higher price tag. It just depends on what the Diamondbacks' appetite here is for money to take on, prospects to give up, and what the other team's appetite is to make a trade. But if the Arizona Diamondbacks are going to improve this team, I think a lot of it is going to come via the trade market. That is where they are going to thrive the most because they don't have the financial wiggle room, I think, in free agency. So just prepare yourself. The teams that are interested in Christian Walker could drive him out of range for the Diamondbacks. Here are a couple of options that they could replace him with.